Alright guys, in this vehicle specific video, we're going to be tinting the front doors on a 2016 Ford Mustang. Let's get right off and started with tricking the door. It's a frameless door, so you have to trick the latch for the window to be in a fully up position. You can either use your gasket jamming stick or a screwdriver. Just trick the latch. Make sure it's fully locked and the window will move up. Then we'll go ahead with the outside prep, the inside prep, and then we'll lay out the bulk material. This will be a fairly quick video. Now, there was tint on this previously before this vehicle came here. It was removed before it came here. So there is some glue residue that we just have to remove. Right now we can go ahead with the bulk material layout. Like in most of my vehicle specific videos, I'm going to use a 40-inch roll. This car is getting 35% SunTech Standard Pro. We got the 40-inch roll. This is what you want to avoid if you are using a 40-inch roll. You don't want the material to kink like this. So now we just have to check over it and make sure there's no creases in the area of where the window is, which there's only a crease right here. We're going to end up cutting that off. Let's start by mounting it in place in the center and then cutting off the majority of that extra material, which we'll use for the other side. We'll roll this up. The first side we're going to cut on the Mustang door window is the bottom edge, and then we'll cut the front edge. So it's going to cut this right on the gasket. We'll cut the front edge straight up. We'll release the squeegee mount. Keeping that bottom edge lined up, we'll shift it forward about 1/8 of an inch, not too much on this one, because we're going to shift it forward again after we cut the back. So the back's lined up, we're going to cut the back edge. I meant to say the bottom is lined up, we'll cut the back edge. Now we're going to release that mount on the back and then shift it forward ever so slightly, so that we have a very slight hairline gap across the back edge. Keeping the bottom lined up. Mount it in place to cut the top edge. Go ahead and cut the top. We're going to take our radius here and just make a rough cut so we know exactly how tight to make it when we do the final cut. Doesn't have to be perfect. Peel this off to trim up our corners. And just clean up that top radius nice and tight to match the factory glass. And on the front edge, I like to take this extra material and use as much of it as possible without going too crazy. That ensures that the material hides behind the gasket on the top and the front side. And then we'll keep our bottom corners nice and tight and small. Then with this car, I like to pre-shrink the film. So we'll lay it on the outside, leaving about 1 inch gap on the bottom, squeegeeing out across the top and bringing those down the sides. And now we have our fingers that we can shrink before we install the film. So we're going to shrink these on the outside, making the installation a lot easier. Now that those are all shrunk, we'll release it from the window and mount it to be installed, leaving a gap across the top now and squeegeeing it into place. And we'll do a spray squeegee spray. Just like any other frameless door, you want to get enough soapy water between this front gasket to make sure it's lubricated behind there and doesn't get stuck. And we'll grab the film from the outside. Laying down the front corner first, sliding it into the front gasket, and then working our way back. You may have to use the easy reach to pull the gasket away up front, just for the material to slide in if it's too tight. And then once the front edge is in, you go forward with making a nice even gap around the top and the back sides, making sure there's not a gap on the bottom edge, and then mounting it in place. Just like any other frameless door, as you squeegee, you want to make sure you hold it in place and check for any movement. After you do your first squeegee, you want to go over it again harder. And then we'll go down the front edge with the easy reach. And then around the edges with the Blue Hawk towel and the heat gun. Do a final push out across the bottom with the Blue Hawk, with the gray Litco card and the heat gun, just in case any of the fingers pop up like they are right here. Do that final seal and final shrink. Check the outside for any imperfections around the edges. Look for any fingers popping up. And then with these doors, I like to take the little chiseler, heat from the outside, and just push out the very top edge, just to make sure that's sealed up really nice. And while you're doing this, you'll find a few dust specks always. You can work those out very lightly with the heat on the outside. And then once you've checked all the edges, it's squeegeed in place really nice. You went over the bottom edge with the gray Litco card and the heat gun on the inside. And you can set it on the outside or use a heat lamp, and just make sure you heat up the bottom edge, especially if it's starting to get cooler outside like it is here. You want to make sure this bottom edge is heated up nicely so the water evaporates as much as possible, and that bottom edge is cured pretty well before the customer leaves, because once you release this door latch, the window will drop down and rub against the gasket. So we'll do this for about 5 minutes, and then it'll be all done and ready to pull out. And that is how you tint the front doors on a 2016 Ford Mustang. I'll see you guys in the next video.